Rain poured heavily over the grand glass windows of Sterling Enterprises, the most powerful corporation in the city. Inside, marble floors gleamed under soft golden lights, echoing the steady rhythm of footsteps, chatter, and ambition. Everyone in the building was too busy climbing ladders of success to notice the quiet janitor who mopped near the elevator, humming a soft tune from another life. His name was Daniel, a man whose past was buried deeper than the floors he cleaned. It was late evening, most employees had left, except a few executives wrapping up their work. The elevator chimed softly, and out stepped a little girl, no more than 6, wearing a pink dress now soaked from the rain. Her big brown eyes were filled with terror, and her small hands clutched a stuffed rabbit to her chest. "Help! Someone, please help," she cried, her voice trembling. Heads turned, confused and startled. But before anyone could move, the little girl ran straight toward the janitor. She stumbled to her knees in front of him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They beat my mom," she gasped, her voice broken. "She's dying." Daniel froze. For a split second, the entire world around him disappeared. He dropped the mop and knelt beside her. "What did you say, sweetheart?" he asked softly. "My mommy. They hurt her, she told me to run here. Please. You have to help her." Her tiny hands tugged at his sleeve desperately. A few onlookers gathered, whispering. One of them muttered, "That's Mr. Sterling's daughter, the CEO's child." A chill rippled through the hall. Before anyone else reacted, Daniel scooped the girl into his arms and ran toward the exit. "Call an ambulance," he shouted over his shoulder, surprising everyone with his sudden authority. "And tell security to lock down the building." No one expected that tone, commanding, precise, filled with urgency. It wasn't the voice of a janitor. The rain hammered harder as Daniel dashed into the parking lot, the girl pointing frantically. "There! The car! Mommy's in there!" A black luxury SUV sat near the far corner, its door half open, headlights still on. Daniel's heart pounded as he approached. Inside, a woman mid-30s, elegant but bloodied, lay slumped against the seat, barely breathing. Her face was bruised, her blouse torn. Daniel gently laid the girl down and checked the woman's pulse. Weak, but there. "Stay back, honey," he said quietly. He looked around. No sign of attackers. Just the sound of thunder and his own racing heartbeat. Then, with shocking precision, he rolled up his sleeves and began pressing on the woman's chest, counting softly under his breath. CPR. His movements were steady, practiced, professional. The security guards arrived seconds later, wide-eyed. "We called the paramedics, sir." Daniel, what do we?" "Get me the first aid kit from the front desk," he barked, not looking up. "And keep her daughter warm." They obeyed without hesitation. Something about his tone, the way he moved, the way his eyes never wavered, commanded respect. Minutes stretched like hours. Rain mixed with blood on his hands. He breathed air into the woman's lungs, whispering, "Come on, stay with me, breathe." Finally, she coughed, a weak, painful sound, but alive. The girl sobbed, throwing her arms around her mother. Daniel exhaled, relief flooding through him as paramedics rushed in. By morning, news of the incident spread through the entire company. The CEO, Richard Sterling, returned from his business trip, pale and shaken. His wife, Clara, was recovering in the hospital. Police had arrested 2 masked men later revealed to be hired by a rival corporation to intimidate her for information. Richard walked through the hospital corridors, replaying what he'd been told. It wasn't security who'd saved his wife. It wasn't his executives. It was a janitor, Daniel. He found Daniel sitting quietly outside Clara's room, his mop leaning against the wall beside him, his clothes still damp from the storm. "You saved my family," Richard said, his voice trembling slightly. "The doctors said if you hadn't performed CPR when you did." Daniel smiled faintly. "Anyone would have done the same, sir." "No," Richard said firmly. "They wouldn't." My men froze. "You acted." There was silence for a moment. Then Richard asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Who are you really, Daniel?" Daniel hesitated. His eyes lowered. "Just a janitor trying to make a living." But Richard wasn't convinced. "That's not the truth, is it?" Daniel sighed. He looked at the little girl asleep in a chair, holding her stuffed rabbit, and finally said, "I used to be a medic. Special Forces. Served 10 years. After the war. I couldn't save my own family in a car crash. I quit everything. This job cleaning floors, it's quiet. It helps me forget." Richard's throat tightened. The pain in Daniel's eyes was deep, haunting. "You didn't just save my wife," Richard said softly. "You saved a part of me I didn't even know I was losing." Days passed. Clara recovered slowly. Little Emma, the CEO's daughter, refused to leave Daniel's side whenever they visited the office. She'd wait near the janitor's closet with her rabbit, chatting about her day while he mopped the floors. The other employees started greeting him with newfound respect, no longer seeing just a man in a uniform, but a hero hiding behind humility. But not everyone was happy. Martin Lowe, the head of security, burned with resentment. His reputation had taken a hit. He'd frozen that night while a janitor took command. "He's making me look bad," Martin grumbled to a colleague. "Sterling treats him like family now. I'll prove he's not who he says he is." He started digging, searching Daniel's records, past addresses, anything. One night, Martin followed Daniel after work and snapped photos of him visiting a local veterans shelter, giving food, and quietly paying for medical supplies. When he tried to use that against him, accusing him of lying about his identity, Richard shut him down immediately. "Maybe you should learn from him," Richard said coldly. "He's done more good for this company than you have in years." Weeks later, Sterling Enterprises held its annual charity gala, a glittering event attended by the city's elite. Daniel was working late again, cleaning the hall after everyone had gone home, when Richard found him. "Daniel," he said with a warm smile, "you've been avoiding the spotlight. But tonight, you're not getting away with it." Daniel frowned, puzzled. "Sir, I'm just—" "You're coming with me," Richard interrupted, handing him a suit jacket. Moments later, Daniel stood awkwardly at the back of the ballroom as Richard stepped onto the stage. The crowd quieted as he spoke. "3 weeks ago, my family faced a tragedy that could have changed our lives forever. My wife was attacked, and our daughter ran for help. But help didn't come from a security guard or an executive. It came from the humblest man in our company, a man most of us barely noticed." The spotlight turned onto Daniel. Gasps rippled through the room. This man, Daniel Reed, didn't hesitate. "He risked his life to save my wife and comforted my child when she was alone and afraid. He reminded me that true strength doesn't come from power or wealth, it comes from compassion." The room erupted in applause. Daniel's hands trembled as Richard gestured for him to come forward. "I offered him a promotion," Richard said, "but he turned it down. He told me, I don't need titles to do what's right. But tonight, I insist, Daniel, I want you to lead our new community outreach program for veterans. You belong in leadership." Tears filled Daniel's eyes as he looked out over the crowd and saw little Emma waving proudly from her mother's lap. Months later, the company's new veterans program flourished, helping hundreds of struggling soldiers find work and medical aid. Daniel found peace again, not through forgetting his past, but by honoring it. One afternoon, Emma skipped into the janitor's room, which now had a sign reading Community Director, Daniel Reed. She giggled, holding up her rabbit. "Uncle Daniel, Mommy says you're a hero." He smiled, kneeling beside her. "No, kiddo. I'm just someone who did what needed to be done." She tilted her head. "But you saved my mommy." Daniel's eyes softened. "Then maybe that's enough." As she hugged him tightly, sunlight poured through the windows, warm, golden, and full of hope. And for the first time in years, Daniel felt something he thought he'd lost forever. Peace. The janitor everyone overlooked had become the man everyone looked up to, not because he sought glory, but because he chose kindness when the world needed it most. A reminder that heroes aren't always the ones in suits or uniforms. Sometimes, they're the ones quietly cleaning the floor, waiting for the moment when someone needs them most.